And software as a service by design, because processing happens on the server side in the cloud, is to, and their business model in many cases is based on monetizing personal data through targeted advertising. Means data is not in our hands anymore. It is copied onto servers. So by the way, and I will reuse catchphrases you've probably familiar with. There is no cloud. The cloud is someone else's computer. That's a very nice way to introduce the cloud to ordinary people who think the cloud is something magical. No, the cloud is just someone else's computer. And in the cloud, data is centralized. There's no freedom for users to have any, impact on the data because, well, maybe there is some free and open source software on the servers, like the kernel and a few things, but really the application itself is not free software. And so the user has no control over the application and therefore has no control of what is being done with his or her data. So you're probably all familiar with the fate of Edward Snowden, the whistleblower, which basically has released a lot of information. He's had a lot of information from his employer at the NSA to journalists, and what really boils down to is data centralization makes mass surveillance economically possible. Basically, the NSA and several other government agencies want to listen to everyone. They want to record every conversation, whether it happens on the phone or on a computer. And they do that because it's their mission. And because it's too expensive to do surveillance of 7 billion people on Earth right now, it's a lot cheaper to go and fetch the data from the very companies that concentrate our data into a few silos. And this is an issue, as explained here. This is Glenn Greenwald, which is one of the two journalists that met with Edward Snowden first. It's basically, if you are under surveillance, you do self-censorship. Mass surveillance, and I'm quoting him here, mass surveillance creates a prison in the mind. If you are under surveillance, you change your behavior. And this is not just something we think. It's scientifically proven. We do self-censor, and here's the proof. So Wikipedia has a lot of pages, and it's totally okay to be visiting Wikipedia pages. It's legal to visit Wikipedia pages. I mean, right? We agree on that. But there are some pages we discuss, which discuss topics that are today a little touchy. Islam or jihad or terrorism are such topics and pages that people may they hear a lot about this in the media, and it's really good that as citizens they want to know more and go to Wikipedia to learn more about these topics. But at the same time, if you look at the jihad page, maybe you could think, I could get into trouble because we'll think, they could think I am doing it for the wrong reasons. And so what you see here is basically the mean audience of these such pages with touchy subjects on the US version of Wikipedia. And so as you see, the trend is increasing really fast. And then here, that black mark is the first Snowden revelations, where we learned that mass surveillance was happening, and people knew they were under surveillance. Probably, not for sure, but there were programs of mass surveillance. And as you can see, the trend here, suddenly there is a sudden drop in visiting these pages. which once again, it is legal to view and read these pages. It is a good thing. But as we know, as we are under surveillance, we change our behavior. And in many cases, we don't know we change our behavior. But we do not dare visiting Wikipedia anymore because we could, catch a bullet for being around. So this is a real and scientific example of how we change our behavior when we know we are under surveillance. And this is why it's such a big issue with mass surveillance. You've heard, I'm sure, about Larry Lessig, which said basically code is law. If in the digital age, the people who write the software are the people who decide what other people can do, because software is all everywhere in our lives, and so well, we as software developers decide what other people do, and this is exactly why, if we have free software, we can have a free society. And there's another thing which is really nice, that if code is law, and I think it is, then architecture is politics. The way we architecture software and stuff is actually would decide how things are going to work. So it's up to us, hackers, I mean that of course in a good way, to build the internet we want, the internet that we want, and the internet that is handed down to us. So here's a larger view of that picture. We have to build a new one. We need to buy the new, GNU, whatever, decentralized internet, instead of a centralized internet owned by a handful of corporations. We need all kinds of free and open source decentralized efforts to build that internet. Start with a personal cloud solution, which is I'm working on at Cozy, but there are other solutions. Host, Sandstorm, OCloud, and Nextcloud are examples of such open source and free software solutions to give back control of the internet to the users. But there are all sorts of projects here today that are going to be presented in this room. And there are so many and so diverse, I could not come up with proper categories to explain. There are people who do service hosting, like Chaton and Framasoft. There are, of course, software. There are do-it-yourself ISPs, Wi-Fi infrastructure based on free software, and all that kind of thing. So there are many things, and this is what is going to be cool today, as we are going to discover all of these new approaches to build a decentralized internet, with the hope of making this a movement, not just a bunch of projects, but really people working together. And that was the goal of these days today, is to get people together and connect them so that we build together a decentralized internet. Thank you. I see that we already have a question here. Ludo, 2 questions.
So the first question I have is, what about cables? Like, it's nice to control. The internet is made of cables connecting data centers to others. So in the data centers, we can have all the solutions we want. But like big cables are owned by huge corporations. Do you know of any efforts of having cables owned by the people, not owned by Orange, by KPN, by BT, by AT&T? They're like efforts to like put a cable between the US or, well, let's be like more European centric. A cable between, say, Europe, mainland, and the UK, for instance. That wouldn't be controlled by big corporations.
All right. I need to repeat the question. So keep your questions short, because you're not heard on video. And so, what about the cables that make the internet, the physical internet? They do matter. They need to exist. And I think the issue is more like on the last mile or a few last miles, and this is why the do-it-yourself ISPs are really interesting. The actual cables, the big cables, you know, optical cables under the sea and stuff like that, we are totally not there yet. But if we do have encryption enabled, I think this solves a lot of the issues connected with that. It's not solving all of them, but if it's encrypted, they're not going to be, you know, doing internet neutrality stuff against internet neutrality and stuff like that. So I think we're pretty safe there. It doesn't mean we don't have to try, but I think there are more urgent matters that are mostly related, in my opinion, to devices and servers and such. The good news is that we have Raspberry Pis that for basically 50 euros you can build a decent server. Now the question is it going to be safe and secure and easy to administer? That's a question we need to solve, but at least the hardware here is here and extremely promising. Is there? I'll take your after.
Maybe
Keep it short because I have to repeat it.
maybe encryption isn't silver bullet because we've seen recently in China, for example, they've blocked VPNs. So maybe this is a real issue.
Yes, and so what's your question? So, is encryption the
Yes.
solution?
Is it sufficient? Yes, not, but it's not go cheap to put cable under the sea. So.
No, I agree. I agree. It's not there. It's dangerous everywhere. I mean, the internet for the people is under attack pretty much on every front. So banning encryption is a major issue, and it's a political one, and we need to fight in favor of encryption pretty much everywhere we are. It's going to be hard for me to fight for the Chinese, but I can fight in Europe, and I do fight in France, where it's my country, and everywhere I can. So yes, encryption, right to encryption is something we need to fight for, absolutely. Is there another question?
Where did the idea of coming with this that came from? Well, how did you find out what the people that match the similar interests in centralized internet? You sort of believe is there for a long time, but it's sort of a new topic for the public. So how did you
So where did the idea of building a decentralized internet come from, right? That's if I understand your question.
the conference, this track?
Well, I was involved, like I said, with Mozilla for 17 years. And 20 years ago, I was at FOSDEM, which, if I remember correctly, was called OSDEM at the time, not FOSDEM, because the free part was only open source, not free. And Richard Stallman came and yelled, and well, of course. And so it changed, so it works. So yelling works. And I was with a colleague, and we had the first Mozilla dev room. And after 17 years, I was like, now the issue is not so much on the client side, it's also on the server side. This is why I've joined Cozy to create that. And of course, I ended up knowing a lot of people in similar things. And Julien, Zidane, and Mam together came, and well, we know people that are interested in something which is pretty similar. Tazidane is involved in a DIY ISP. Mam is involved in YUNO host, and together, well, we connect with other projects, and we say, yeah, let's request a room, a dev room at FOSDEM, like I did in Mozilla like 17 years ago, and it happened. Thank you, FOSDEM. And I hope this is the first one. The next one is going to be a lot bigger and bigger. And if you see, the first Mozilla Dev Room was like pretty much this size, and now it's really huge. So maybe this is history. You will be able to say to your grandchildren, "I was there." And another question.
I see two issues
for doing the decentralized internet is data center on the economic side is very efficient compared to do it in centralized, but maybe we need to put more money on the table to have something safer. And the second one, that the data is centralized and give everyone a lot of services. When the data is centralized today with like Google Maps, so how to give the user all the data like Google is able to do, give
No.
services with
Trade the data. So, yeah, your question is how is there a chance that we win with this decentralized approach as opposed to centralized approach? First, I think the internet is inherently decentralized. That's one thing. It was built to be centralized. Second, there are things that are working for us. The smartphone industry is building power efficient and powerful chips that are very, very inexpensive. Think if there's the new chip called a new board called the Orange Pi Zero, which is €7, and it's quad core, 1.2 gigahertz. It really is something. So even the Raspberry Pi, which is inexpensive, it's just the beginning. And thanks to the smartphone industry that's taking our data, it's empowering us with new hardware, which is very efficient. Also, it doesn't have to be fully decentralized. And this is my personal opinion. I'm a pragmatist, and I think that if we start to halfway decentralized, and we decentralize if we decentralize halfway and have regional servers, it's a lot better than having a worldwide server. So we could leverage the efficiency of data centers, but have more control over that. And this is something we're going to see with the de-Googleize your life and their approach with Framasoft. You will see it's very and you read French, do you?
Yeah.
I encourage you to read a book, because that's what I explain on 300 pages, basically. But yes. Sir.
What could we do about mail? Because even if we have this hardware issue solved, today, if you run your own, host instance, and you try to send emails to the GAFA guys, they say, oh, you have a residential IP, so I don't want your mail. And so,
Yes.
are you aware of any initiatives to solve this issue?
So I repeat the question. Is it going to work with email? The email question, because of spam and protection against spam, is really hard. But who owns a Gmail account here in this room? Raise your hand. Okay, now this is the problem. If you started moving your email from Google to your ISP's email, that would be a lot of progress. Not the perfect solution, but progress, and in re-decentralizing the email. So yes, we can start with that, and the world's gonna change. But giving up, just buy your own domain and use the email servers of your hoster. That's already a start. And these people know how to run a mail server that is recognized by Gmail. So.
What is your plan for allowing decentralized internet even for people who have non-technical background?
So what about ordinary users for having a decentralized internet?
Especially cloud.
Yeah, so if I may, and we have like 2 more minutes, I'll give you a very quick example of what we do at Cozy, which basically enables you to connect your data from all your devices and with connectors to all your services on your personal cloud. And this personal cloud, it's like personal, like a smartphone is personal, no username, You just enter the password and enter, and you have access. And it's just like a smartphone, you click on buttons. You have calendar, contacts, and files and photos. You can import your data from Google. You can add connectors and applications. You see your files. You see your contacts and such, your calendar. All of that works, and it runs not necessarily at home. It can run on a server that you pay for. And so there's no incentive for the hosting company you pay to data mine your data, because they already make good money by renting you server space. So that's what we want to do. I'm not saying it's perfect, but it's a good medium-term solution. It's easy to use, and you don't have to worry about the security, because you have professionals that manage to manage your server. That's it. I think we will need to prepare for the next talk. Ludo, you have one last quick question?
Yes, and an easy one. Why do you think Snowden's revelation were more impactful than the discovery of Epsilon 10 years before, where everybody at some point added terrorist bombs in their emails just to fuck up Epsilon?
I think Snowden had an impact because it made the front page of the media. That's pretty much it. I think it was better than that, but it's already pretty good. Time is up. We need to prepare for the next talk. Thank you very much.